Welcome to the December 17th Michigan City Council meeting. Please silence all electronic devices if you haven't yet, and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Saliva, takes roll call, please.
Mr. Beatry?
Present.
Ms. Carnes?
Present.
Mr. Dabney?
Present.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Present.
Mr. Hamilton?
Present.
Mr. Don Presbolinski?
Present.
Mr. Paul Presbolinski?
Present.
Mr. Gene Simmons?
Present.
And Mr. John Stimley?
Present.
All present and accounted for.
Everyone's received a copy of the regular meeting from December the 3rd. Are there any corrections, deletions, motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Support.
Motion to approve by Councilman Fitzpatrick and seconded by Councilman Dabney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Reports of standing committees. Councilman Dabney.
All right. These are the minutes of the December 17th, tonight, Finance Committee meeting. The Finance Committee meeting was called to order at 6:06 p.m. by Chairman Dabney to review claims filed since the last meeting. Committee members Fitzpatrick and Presbolinski were present, as well as council members Carnes, Beatry, Simmons, and Hamilton. City Controller Rich Murphy was unable to attend. Claims reviewed totaled $167,015.11 from the Riverboat Fund and $17,285.73 from the Boyd Development Fund, for a total docket of $184,840.84. There were questions in regards to one of the claims in regards to the Lighthouse Museum grant match by Councilman Fitzpatrick, and the answer he got was suffice to what he was looking for. His question was answered. Councilman Presbolinski moved to recommend approval of the docket, and with a second by Councilman Fitzpatrick, the motion was approved unanimously. And on a motion made by Councilman Presbolinski and a second by Councilman Fitzpatrick, the meeting was adjourned at 6:10 p.m. Summary of the claims are as follows. From the Riverboat Fund: Enterprise Rent-A-Car, $1,319.10. Global Engineering and Land Surveying, $72,835 even. Haas and Associates LLC, $14,477.20. Jacob Kuba, $127.83. James Manuel, $115.87. Municipal Code Corporation, $5,026 even. The News Dispatch, $1,609.11. Kevin Vost, $165 even. Van Osdol and Farrar Inc., $1,340 even. And the Lighthouse Museum grant match of $70,000, for a total from the Riverboat Fund of $167,015.11. From the Boyd Development, Kia Bergeson, $2,400.70. Corporate Payment Systems, $23.11. George Prelwitz, $800.04. And We Create Media, $14,602.58, for a total from the Boyd Development Fund of $17,825.73. And that comes to a total claims docket of $184,840.84. And that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Okay, thanks, Councilman. And also, we had a special Finance Committee meeting. Would you like to go ahead and report on that?
Yeah. And just to alert the council, I had already submitted minutes on this, but then I remembered some comments that were made in the meeting, so I went back and adjusted those. So I'm going to read those into the minutes, and then we're going to send out another copy to all of the council members. So December 5th, 2019 Special Finance Committee meeting. A Special Finance Committee meeting of the Michigan City Common Council was called by Finance Committee Chair Bryant Dabney for Thursday, December 5th, 2019 at 5 p.m. to review and discuss end-of-year transfers and 2020 projections. The Special Finance Committee meeting was called to order at 5:06 p.m. by Chairman Dabney to discuss the ordinance to discuss the above-mentioned issues. Committee members Dabney, Fitzpatrick, and Prespolinski were present, as well as council members Simmons and Paul Prespolinski. Also present were City Controller Rich Murphy, City Attorney Jim Myers, Mayor-elect Dwayne Perry, Carl Sender of Sender and Associates, and council-elect members Angie Nelson-Deitch and Tracy Tillman. After discussion, it was recommended by the City Controller Murphy that the council transfer $600,000 from the seeded fund to the general fund and another $1 million from the riverboat fund to the general fund to cover any possible shortfalls in the general fund, and to also create a much-needed reserve for the city in case of future unforeseen collection issues. Councilman Dabney brought up the fact that he had a solution to the reserve issue during last year's budget hearings when he stated that we did not need another $700,000 to go into the Promise Scholarship Fund and that we should use that money at the time to fund a rainy day fund. But then Councilman Paul Prespolinski also made comments expressing his concerns over overspending and more transparency with the city's finances. And he made the comment in the meeting that he would follow up on that with the Controller's Office. Finally, the Finance Committee was alerted that $500,000 from unused grant matching funds will be put back into the Riverboat Fund. There was further discussion also regarding TIF districts and the way TIF funding works and how much actual money the city would receive if those TIF districts were eliminated. Carl Sender of Sender and Associates informed the Finance Committee that eliminating the TIF district would not lead to a dollar-for-dollar move to the fund's general fund. He stated that there would be a percentage of tax dollars that would go to the general fund and the rest of the money would be dispersed elsewhere. It's a very complicated formula, and he didn't go into detail with that. The Finance Committee moved to recommend to the Council by a 3-0 vote that the City Council approve the transfers recommended by the City Controller. Finally, upon a motion by Councilman Fitzpatrick and a second by Councilman Prespolinski, the meeting was adjourned at 6:28 p.m. And that concludes that report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilman Dabney. I don't believe there's any other reports of standing committees. There is no reports of special or select committees. Reports of other officers and departments. And this evening we have Todd Anderson from the Energy Savings Group, and he's going to give us a summary of where we stand with our project with this group for the 2019 summary of our energy efficiency projects.
Good evening, Todd Anderson with Energy Systems Group. President Prespolinski asked us to come and give you an update on where we are at with the project, and thought we'd start with a little background so everybody's on the same page again.
Todd, if I may, did you bring hard copies?
Yes, everybody should have one.
Oh, okay. You're right. Thank you.
Back in June of 2016, Energy Systems Group and the City of Michigan City set an initiative to address energy efficiency and consumption and related infrastructure assets throughout the city. We analyzed over 50 city facilities in conjunction with the city, and the result was we had 24 solutions to reduce energy and operation expenses over a 20 to 30 year period. So the objective of those 24 solutions was to reduce costs, upgrade the assets, and improve the comfort in all those facilities. The project offset and annual debt service, along with savings and conservation for capital funds for other city projects. So those were kind of the objectives of our mission. So our total scope of work, the total cost at this point is $4,207,987, and that's broken down into three buckets, so to speak. So we had a base contract of $3,053,258. We added solar project into this for a cost of $1,045,949. And then we've had some minor change orders in the amount of $108,754, bringing us to that total of $4,207,000. So the scope of work included a citywide interior and exterior upgrades to LED lighting. So street lighting that is owned by the city on Franklin, and then down Michigan Boulevard, and several other areas throughout the city were changed over to LED. We did sports lighting out at Patriot Park and at the skate park. Senior Center, we removed 4 poles, which are actually owned by NIPSCO. So that will reduce the overall costs of lighting that parking lot at the Senior Center. And then interior-wise, we switched out all of the lighting to LED. Kruger Hall did the same on the interior and exterior of that building. Anything that was attached to the building itself. So the parking lot light there is owned by NIPSCO. We did not touch that. At Central Maintenance and Central Services, Barker Mansion, the golf course, airport, and the zoo did the same thing. So, and all that work is complete. On the HVAC side, at Senior Center, we did a total revamp of that entire system. We removed the existing chiller and air handler on the outside of the building and replaced it with a new, more efficient unit, and then switched over from to a VAV system with hot water, and changed out all the controls within the building so we have a more even and more efficient HVAC system for the Senior Center. Kruger Hall, we took out the old split systems there and replaced them with new. Park maintenance, that building did not have AC in it, so we added air conditioning to that and then replaced the existing air handling unit for that space. And then here in City Hall, the controversial T-stat covers are still being installed. So, and all the HVAC work is complete at this point in time. Miscellaneous, central maintenance. We added insulation to that existing roof there and put a new roof membrane over it to make that a little more efficient building as well. At central maintenance, one of the change orders was to address the damper system there. The dampers were loose and letting air in, so we've got those fixed as well. At the zoo, we replaced security cameras at several locations in the zoo, and then added new speakers, and we are installing new overhead speaker cabling throughout the zoo as well. And then from a fleet management standpoint, we have 105 vehicles under the fleet management system now. And that work is complete as well. And then for the solar or the photovoltaic installation, we had 4 systems installed. One added to the police headquarters. We added a 50 kW AC system there. At Fire Station 4, that would be a ground mount system. We added a 43.2 kilowatt AC system for that facility, and out at Patriot Park, a 28 kilowatt system, and Senior Center, a 108 kilowatt AC system. Overall, those systems, it depends on the location, but will offset quite a bit of energy for those facilities. Total savings for the project on an annual basis, energy savings, we are guaranteeing $180,485 per year. Operational savings, $71,615 per year. And a combined savings escalated 3% over the 18-year guarantee is $5,840,154. So offsetting the initial outlay of $4.2 million. In addition, we have applied for $79,328 of rebates from NIPSCO. I'm not sure whether or not those have been received or not, so maybe the controller can update on that. But total benefits, at this time, we reduced energy and operations costs, needed modernization of several facilities in the city, and again, allowed the city to apply other capital to other costs that the city may have, and reduced your taxpayers' burden. As of right now, there are 3 items essentially that need to be complete, and that is the installation of the solar system at police headquarters. We are planning on having that done around the middle of January next year. We are finishing up the speaker cabling at the zoo, and then I have some more T-stack covers to get to Tim for installation. So those are basically the items that we have left to complete. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Councilman Pryzbolinski.
I wasn't privy to approving this contract with you guys, and I have a concern with, I don't see anything here about street lighting. Was that ever mentioned on when you did your contract on converting the street lights to LED lights through NIPSCO? Is that going to happen?
We only addressed what was owned by the city. So NIPSCO's owns their lights, and we don't. We did not address that, no.
If I could, actually there was discussion about it, and there was negotiations with NIPSCO preliminary to possibly doing it, but NIPSCO advised that they were going to change everything to LED within 3 years. So the city decided it wasn't worth spending a lot of money, since they were going to be changing them anyway in 3 years.
So that was a year ago, so we're going to have to wait 2 more years?
You'll have to ask NIPSCO.
Is that correct? So, okay, so then we need to get into that. Did you see any other savings potential at the, or anything that was questionable at the new police station? The way it was built, and with
You know, that's one thing that I failed to put on here, was we did do, for their fresh air intake, there were some added controls that we did, because that fresh air intake was running at a constant fan speed, and we had some controls to modulate that. So it wasn't running full bore all the time. So we did do that.
Okay. Thank you.
As far as record keeping goes,
Mhm.
and once the project is done with the installation, your company is going to keep track of the energy savings, and a report will be given
Given
to
on
the
an-
city
yes.
on an annual, semi-annual
basis.
basis, or
On an annual basis.
annual basis? Okay. And one thing that, and Todd didn't mention it, but one thing that him and I looked at the other day when I was speaking to him about this project was, down at the park, nothing was done in the park area, Washington Park area, except the senior center, that was done, some
And
work
the
in the zoo, but not in the, like the gazebo area, where the band shell's at. And, it brought my attention. I was out there a couple weekends ago doing some work. Anyway, looking at the gazebo, a lot of lights burned out, a lot of lights, fixtures on it, and it kind of caught my attention if there was something that we could do there to save some money throughout the years. And, I mean, you have a gazebo, a historic fixture, in my mind, part of Michigan City, and 50% of the lights that are on this structure are burned out, and the city has to go and try to replace them a couple of times a year and spend money on light bulbs and spend money on man hours to do it and energy costs and things like that. So Todd looked at it, got the number of lights on it, and he's going to report on that this evening. Just give a quick synopsis. I mean, it's not a earth-shaking amount of money that would be saved, but just something for the council to digest, to see, if they think they would want to look at something like that next year as another possible cost savings, because now we're being directed that we need to have reserves built up. So I guess the bottom line is every penny counts. Okay, so with that opening statement, Todd, it's all yours.
So we did do an analysis of that, the gazebo, and found that during the months of late November through early January, that's when your energy cost on that particular facility goes way up. And so we did an analysis based on just the general use of that gazebo throughout the year, and we came up with if we switched over to LED, a cost savings annually of $320. The biggest expense again is late November through January, when all the Christmas lights are hooked into that. So we did not address that at all, because that's just something that we can't analyze very easily. But there are several infrastructure things that need to be addressed on that gazebo as well. The electrical infrastructure on it, there are several bases that need to be replaced and updated, and so when we're looking at this, we're going to get a cost together to do all that. Just don't have it ready for tonight's presentation, but to get it upgraded, and then a portion of that would be offset by the energy savings. Again, it's not a ton of money, but it is something.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
I had a question.
Councilman Beatry, Councilman Dabney.
Under the savings, total project savings, you have a bullet there that says combined savings estimated or escalated at 3% over 18 years.
Yes.
Where'd you come up with the idea that it's going to escalate, and why 3%?
That's what we see on a regular basis from energy providers. typically we're seeing around a 3% tick up annually. And so that's where we come up with that number.
You see them escalating at 3%,
Correct.
and you figured our savings will escalate by 3% as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Okay, I got you.
Councilman Dabney.
Quick question in regards to the park. Was there ever any, or did you even get involved with this part? This is the lights that are lining Lakeshore Drive. They're having some issues down there, and this has been years going on down there with the lights that are along Lakeshore Drive
Okay.
on the part by Fetters going down through there. I was just wondering, do you guys do anything like that? I mean, these are going to be, there's going to have to be like replacement of things. There's like water that got down into the bases and things. I mean, it's a lot of work. But I was wondering, were there ever any discussions with you guys in regard, or do you not even get involved with things like that?
Typically we don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's, if there's infrastructure issues, I mean, we're not changing a fixture to make it more energy efficient in lieu of trying to do total infrastructure change out. That being said, I mean, we do that from an HVAC side because that's become a little more cost effective,
Okay.
so to speak. But I mean, if there's some analysis that needs to be done, I mean, we can certainly take a look at it.
Okay. I was just checking to see if you do that for free. Something like that. Is that possible?
Of course.
He said, of course. He said, of course.
Yes, not me.
Thank you.
Todd, one last question. When will the project be completed?
I am looking to be done.
Yeah.
Books handed over to you, all training done by the end of January next year.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Very good. Very good.
I was hoping to be done the end of December. But
Councilman Przybylski?
I have an additional question concerning the fire stations and City Hall in general. Did you not go over and look at modernizing the fire stations? Because they're all 20 years old. So, you know, all their energy using.
so on the fire stations,
Yes.
those were switched over to LED prior to us arriving.
They
So-
were?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And-
that
And
so
you're
that was
satisfied with them?
well.
Or you didn't look at them?
We looked at them, but there's not much else we can do from a lighting perspective on those.
From what perspective?
From a lighting perspective.
Oh, I was looking at energy use on heating and HVAC, you know, something like that.
I would have
and,
to go back.
doors,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I'd have to go back and take a look at all the analysis that was done because that was done a couple of years ago. So it's not fresh in my memory, but I could certainly
Okay.
find out for you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Todd, and if you would, you could send that information to me,
Okay.
and then I'll get that to Councilman
Okay.
Przybylski. All right. Any other questions? Mr. Anderson? Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the claims docket. We have claims dockets this evening of Fund 2042 Riverboat Claims, $97,015.11. EFT payment of $70,000, and Fund 2031, which is a Boyd Development Fund, of $17,825.73. Is there a motion to accept the claims?
So moved.
Motion to accept the claims, is there a second?
Support.
Seconded by Councilman Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, sir.
As we were wrapping up, we were talking about the energy efficiency project. I saw a hand go up in the back, like we wanted to do a public comment. You can do public comment at the end. There's not a public comment session on that. We didn't have one on that specifically, but you can come up on the public comment at the end.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand go up. I was probably looking down, going on to the next step. Okay, yeah, but under public comment, at the end of the meeting, you can get up and speak about whatever your comment was. Okay, claims are paid. Any petitions? No petitions before us this evening. Ms. Shaliva, communications.
Correspondence received in the clerk's office on December 2nd and December 9th from DLZ with their weekly activity report on the ESG Energy Project. A correspondence was received in the clerk's office on December 5th, 2019 from Mayor Ron Muir and Clerk Gail Nylub. And a correspondence was received in the clerk's office on December 12th, 2019 from Randy Russell, Department of Waterworks.
Thank you, Ms. Shaliva. Our first resolution this evening before us, and this resolution was tabled on December the 3rd meeting and is to come off the table at the December 17th meeting, which is tonight. Is there a motion to bring this off the table?
You don't need this. It's automatic since you said this ends the date.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, with that being said, Ms. Shaliva, by title only, without objection.
A resolution by title only, a resolution increasing and decreasing certain appropriations within the budget of the Police Department in the General Fund number 1001 for the year 2019 in Michigan City, Indiana, and this is introduced by Councilman Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add?
I received a text at the after we put it on the table. We tabled it last meeting in regards to what that we were questioning the $32,000 that would be going to contractual services. We have Chief Jillian Ashley here to speak about that. And I want to apologize that Ms. Ashley wasn't here last meeting because I told her she wouldn't have to come because I thought it would be a simple transfer. But so I apologize for putting you on the spot like that. Chief?
Either microphone.
Hello, I am Jillian Ashley. I'm the Chief of Services of the Michigan City Police Department. I want to first start off by saying thank you for your service, especially to the ones who will be honored tonight. I'm honored to be here today talking about something that I inherited, I would say, on November the 1st when I got sworn in. It's definitely a learning curve because not only am I responsible for non-uniformed officers and also civilian staff, but I'm also going to be responsible for the budget. Of course, that is a task in itself. When I actually looked at the budget, of course, I needed a lot of help with that. So I've been working closely with the Controller's Office, and they actually helped to make the resolution for me and said pretty much this is what we needed to do in order to be good enough to pay all of our bills for the end of the year. I'm here to let you know that me putting in the bills, I saw a lot of negatives and reds, and we definitely need to move some money around in order for us to be able to pay the vendors.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Councilman?
What other contractual services are we funding out of this money? Since we don't have it in there, and I would imagine it should have been budgeted, so it was budgeted in last year's budget. What exactly are we going to use this money for?
The actual vendors that I have been put in for consist of all of the utilities, a lot of the contracts with various local vendors and vendors through, at different areas. We have a lot of, because animal control is underneath us, for instance, I noticed that we have a lot of contracts through them in reference to, paying out the animal hospitals and cremations and different things of that nature. So it looks like it just racked up. So I'm not really certain exactly what caused all of that. I have not been privy to that information just yet because I'm still divulging into the budget.
Okay, since you brought up the item of utilities, how much is going towards utilities out of this?
For me to say how much exactly is going to utilities, I really don't know. And I'll say that because I believe it started when I put in my first batch, which would have been probably December. There was already negative. So for me to say line item, and unfortunately for me, my things in the New World system was not set up properly. So I didn't have access to all of the reports right off the bat.
Okay, so in other words, we're running over budget on utilities.
We are running over budget on utilities, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief Ashley, I have a couple questions.
Yes.
On the utilities, and it signifies water here, it specifies water. Why did we have a $32,000 increase with water? Is that due to sprinkling the lawn and the sod all summer? Is that where the big increase came from? Where did $32,000 come from all of a sudden that we got to pay this $32,000 water bill?
Sir, I wish that I can answer those questions to you properly, but I just cannot at this point. I'm still doing a lot of transitional period, so I'm still talking to former administration as well.
Yes, Mr. Myers.
Water is 1,500.
Oh, it's up there. I'm sorry. Okay, that was contractual services. It's 32,000. I was reading the wrong line. Okay, and then the other one. All right, we got that. Okay, those are the only questions I had.
Okay.
But thank you for coming this evening.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Okay. Any other questions? No other questions by council members? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Having none, any further council comments?
Motion to approve. Support.
Motion to approve by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilman Councilman Hamilton. Are there any other comments by council members? Any other council comments? Having none, Ms. Schleva, on the vote.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Gene Simmons,
Aye.
Mr. Stimley,
Aye.
Mr. Breetree,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Carnes, Mrs. Carnes, I'm sorry,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 9 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schleva. Our second resolution this evening by title only, without objection. Ms. Schleva?
A resolution by title only, a resolution increasing and decreasing certain appropriations within the budget of the Central Maintenance Department in the General Fund number 1001 for the year 2019 in Michigan City, Indiana, and this is introduced by Ms. Carnes.
And does the author have anything she'd like to add at this time?
Yes, this is due to large repairs that were done to fire and police vehicles this year.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Having none, is anyone from the council? Any council comments? Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I have one question. It says, so it's 40,000 and it was for increase in fire and police equipment. I'd like to see a little more information on that.
Sure. Jessica Arnett, City Forester, Vector Control Department Head, and I'm here on behalf of Central Maintenance Superintendent Bob Zonder tonight. So essentially, the shifting in these line items is sort of moving things from the line item for repair parts and equipment, which is things that we do in-house, to repair maintenance equipment, which includes service. So there are a number of repairs that need to be made to, fire engines and police vehicles that our in-house mechanics aren't certified or trained to do, so they need to be sent to specialists. This usually includes any sort of deep engine kind of repairs, especially for fire trucks, in which the engine actually needs to be dropped. In those complex engines, there's a number of repairs in which that's actually required. To actually drop a fire engine, even for those specialists, is a 12 to 13 hour job, even for those specialists with all the equipment that they have. So that's not something that our in-house mechanics, they don't have the equipment and they're not certified, or they don't specialize in those kinds of repairs. So that's why there's the need for the transfer.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I did. So these are repairs or services that are to be done within the next couple weeks?
Or they're getting ready to have them sent out, or they've already had them sent out. They needed to be done. I called over and I actually spoke with the lead mechanic over in central maintenance just to get a kind of sense of, what kinds of things, fire engines and police vehicles get sent out for. But the fire engines, a lot of them are aging. They had one that they were doing some simple repairs on that's like from 2008. So a lot of them are just sort of up there in years and sort of need, more routine maintenance from specialists rather than our in-house mechanics.
Councilman Prespolinski?
What specifically is going to be repaired? Because when you talk about dropping an engine, I know no fire engines that are out of service at this present time that or any that need a engine repair. So what specifically do you need this $40,000 for? Because, and the reason I'm asking this is because tonight we're being asked to transfer $600,000 in shortfalls in the budget. So with all these shortfalls to shore up the budget, is this work already done and now we're asking for the money, or is this money going to be scheduled out, or can it be laid over till next year?
That I'd have to consult with my supervisor. I'd have to consult with Bob Zodner for that. But what I do want to say, though, is I wouldn't classify these as a budget shortfall, because they're not. There's money within the budget that's just being moved from one line item to another.
Okay.
And the reason for that being is that, some years you can estimate what the repairs are going to be and what your needs are going to be, but they don't always line up. They're not always exactly congruent. And, this year happened to be one of the years that, our fire trucks and our police vehicles required outside maintenance to a higher degree than what we had in the line item.
Excuse me. Let me say this. We sit here at the end of this year with maybe $1.5 million in the Riverboat Fund at the end of the year. Now, let me finish.
Well, this isn't coming from the
Let
riverboat.
me finish, please. Is that I think the controller should have been telling people to watch their budgets, because that, the money is actually drying up. We won't have a tax draw till early in the spring. So you're saying that the money's there, the money's not there because we got a $600,000 shortfall that we got to pass tonight to put in the budget for this year.
But that doesn't have to
Alright.
do with this $40,000 transfer.
Well, it's got everything to do with
Jessica.
it. The
Let
point
the
is,
councilman finish, please.
Okay.
the point in being is this, is that the controller should have told everybody to watch their spending, and if it wasn't absolutely necessary, not to spend any money or to have a reserve for next year, okay? So I'm not necessarily complaining to you, I'm complaining about what the controller's been doing, okay? Because I have a problem with the transfer we're gonna do later in the evening, which you may not know about, because I look at it this way. We've had the riverboat since 1995, and we're going to end this year with only 1.5 supposedly in that fund. That is a total shame. So I really have a hard time supporting this, but I would like to know specifically what you're going to spend it on, or if the money's already been spent, or if you got to have this work done in the next 2 weeks, because you're talking about fire trucks, and I know of no fire trucks that need any work. Are you telling us that engine is kaput and we have a engine out of service, or what are we talking about here? Truly,
Well,
do we need a pump rebuilt that we're sending out a truck?
I don't know that specifically. I'm not a mechanic, and I don't work in central maintenance. What I do know is that the $40,000 transfer is not coming from the riverboat. It's coming from within the central maintenance's general fund budget, and it's to fund repairs that are necessary that probably have been made to fire trucks and police vehicles over the course of the year. And to be honest with you, Mr. Councilman, these are the vehicles that keep the citizens of Michigan City safe. These are fire trucks, and these are police vehicles. I mean, these are things that we can't do a duct tape job on, if you will. And so, I mean, these are necessary funds.
In reference to you impeaching my comments, I'll say this: Mr. Zonder should be here tonight, not you. Thank you. And don't impeach my opinion anymore. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Councilman Dabney?
Yeah, just for the public's sake, if they were listening in on this, these transfers that are happening are within an appropriated budget. So like you have with the police department transferring funds into other accounts, these are just shortfalls that happen in certain accounts. And so they're taking funds out of one account, moving it to another to cover the same issue we have here. So that we're not giving additional funds to cover these. These are funds within their budget that's already been appropriated, but they're just moving dollars around. But I do understand what Mr. Prespolinski or Councilman Prespolinski is talking about in regards to the transfer we're going to talk about later, but those are totally separate from what we're doing now. But I do understand what he's talking about when we're going to talk about the transfer later on down the line. But this is just to cover shortfalls in certain accounts within a budget. I work for a school system, and we do the same thing at the end of each year. Something may happen where we need to bring funds from one account to another because of some unexpected occurrences or things like that. So I just want the public to know how that all works. So it's not, in my mind, it's not a big deal because it's already appropriated budgeted money that's just being moved to cover accounts within their budget.
Thank you for that.
Any other council comments? Thank you, Jessica. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this resolution?
Alina Ursaida, 125 East Harrison Street.
Did you guys, Dawn, did you get that address? Name and address? One more time, please.
125 East Harrison Street. I guess the question was, and the reason why I clapped was because I felt as Mr. Prespolinski, Don Prespolinski thought, or Mr. Paul Prespolinski thought, we were wondering why Zonder wasn't here. We were trying to bridge the gap of the tree and the fire department, why he wasn't here representing. Because he asked some questions that she wasn't responsive to or couldn't answer, and so I'm confused by it all. So I was wondering if you could help me understand why she would be speaking on his behalf concerning repairs when it's my understanding that she deals with trees, not fire department.
And I will respond to that real quick. As far as I know, Mr. Zonder is going to be replaced at the end of the year, and he's taking his vacation time. And that's why he's not here this evening. And that's why Jessica is here, standing in his taking its place. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this?
I can answer that question very briefly.
Go ahead.
Bob Sonder is superintendent of central maintenance and also central services, which is the department under which I'm housed. In addition to being the city forester and the arborist, I'm also the department for vector control. And our departments, vector control and street department within central services, work very closely with central maintenance. My department doesn't handle, vehicle or fleet maintenance per se, but we're all departments that are housed under the same broad, overarching agencies. If that helps at all.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Having none, any further council comments? Councilman Simmons? I'm sorry. No? Any further council comments? Councilman Dabby?
Do you actually have a comment? 'Cause I was gonna make a motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilwoman Carnes. And before we take the vote, I'd like to make a comment. And I can understand where Councilman Przybylski's talking about, when we look at, and I know it's a decrease, an increase from one account to the other, the money's already allocated, but the council has the right, we have the right, and we have the responsibility to know what the money's going to be spent on. And just to say, well, there might be some fire trucks that need work, a couple of squad cars, maybe they need some work, and they got to be safety, and it's for the general public. We all realize what a fire truck means to the community and what police cars mean to the community. What the council's asking for, and myself, is what is this money going to be spent on? And I know there's not a mechanic here. I know you're here this evening, Jessica, and you're probably trying to fill in maybe with the best information you could get. But we're looking for why. Councilman Fitzpatrick asked the question, what are you spending the money on? We got 40 grand. We might be doing this, we might be doing that. We don't know. I don't know for sure. So that's, I think, where the issue's at. We don't know exactly for sure what the money's for. And, it's unfortunate if your boss didn't want to come to explain it, but, I guess I'd say that's his problem if he doesn't get the transfer, and he can worry about that. Okay, with Councilman Przybylski.
With that being said, I would like to identify that a lot of resolutions come to us and they have an itemized list of what the money's going to be used for. And this just has a blanket $40,000 in repair parts and equipment and $40,000 to repair maintenance equipment. So it would be helpful to have an itemized list in front of us. And I think that the public, a lot of people would say, well, I'm going to spend $1,000. Honey, I need $1,000 Saturday. Well, what are you going to spend it on? I think that's only right that you ask. Thank you.
No, and I agree. But in my very sort of basic understanding of the transfer is that there was more of a need in outsourced specialized maintenance this year on fire trucks and on police vehicles than there was more money in the budget for in-house things. And this was a year in which things needed to be outsourced in order to keep our fire trucks and our police vehicles in operational order. Hence the request for the transfer.
Jessica, one more question.
Sure.
Is this money already spent?
That I couldn't answer you, but I know that, they put in the request. It may have been, invoices came in towards the end of the year in the last few months, and, that's when it was sort of recognized that there was a greater need there. That's what I would assume.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Carnes?
I just wanted to make a comment, as long as we're talking about respect and decorum here, that Ms. Arnett should not be referred to as Jessica. She is a vector control superintendent, and we address each other here using the terms Mr. and Ms., and I would request that we address her that way as well.
Thank you. I wasn't going to make that statement on my own, but I appreciate that very much.
With that being said, Councilman Stimley?
Like you said, I just I have a hard time too. I agree with Paul Prespolinski. It'd be nice to see what they actually spending on, if it was for a pumper or if this is work that's going to be done or has been done to do this. So that's just my comment there.
Councilman Beatry?
I just want to say I've been here for 8 years and I've seen a lot of these resolutions for interdepartmental transfers, and I've never seen one that's been itemized. They list the line item that's decreasing, the line item that's increasing. I don't have a problem with any council person asking for more details, but I think the statement was made that we want the details listed on the resolutions, and if we're going to do that, then that's going to be a departure from what we've done in the past for sure.
Thank you, Councilman. No other council comments? Oh,
You want me to just add?
Marilyn, go ahead.
Hi, Mary Bidwell. I'm the assistant controller in the controller's office. Yeah, and this does happen quite a bit at the end of the year. Like we alluded to, that this year we spent more money on having to go outsourcing, I guess, and so that would be in a different classification than would be in your supplies classification. So what's happened at the end of the year, it's showing up as a budget deficit. So our general ledger system will not allow us to pay it out of the classification for supplies, which would be an in-house with our mechanics. So all we're asking for is to move the money from the supplies classification to other contractual. I'm not sure exactly what the title of the other classification. And these are invoices that have already been invoices that need to be paid, basically, and we cannot pay them because we are going over budget in that one classification, not in the total budget for the department. So that's all we're moving, is one line item to the other line item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Prespolinski?
In response to Councilman Beatry's comments, that earlier tonight we had a resolution on transfers and it was itemized. And Councilman Beatry, I served on the council prior to this tenure, and that out of respect, most departments do itemize them, okay? And if there's outlaying costs, then we should know about it. That should be at least what a department head could do, especially with looking at a shortfall in the budget process by itself. Thank you.
Okay, no other council comments? Ms. Schlieba, on the vote, please.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Stimley.
Aye.
Mr. Beatry.
Aye.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Ms. Carnes.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Nay.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Nay.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Nay.
We have 6 in favor and 3 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Schlieba. Our next resolution by title only, without objection.
A resolution by title only, a resolution increasing and decreasing certain appropriations within the budget of the Barker Mansion Department in the Barker Civic Center Fund number 2070 for the year 2019 in Michigan City, Indiana, and this is introduced by Councilman Don Prespolinski.
And as shown on the resolution, there's going to be a decrease from salaries and wages of $5,273 to pay the bills under the telephone, printing and advertising, utilities water, utilities electricity, liability insurance, and repairs to the Barker Mansion. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this resolution? Is there anyone here from the Barker Mansion this evening? Okay. And if there's any questions, and you can come up, if you want to address any of these costs right now, you're more than welcome to come up in front of the council in case they do have some questions. Hi.
Hi, my name's TJ Kalen. I'm the assistant director at the Barker Mansion.
Okay.
And we think that some items were entered incorrectly for building repairs earlier in the year by a previous director. That should have been 4049 CCI money on the building repairs instead of the 2070.
It should have been what? I'm sorry.
We think that there was some invoices were entered incorrectly earlier in the year, which is why we need the transfer for the building repairs.
Okay.
And then we have additional funds in salaries and regular wages because we have not had a full-time department head in about 4 months.
Okay. Any questions? Councilman Prespolinski?
I would just note that we have an itemized resolution in front of us, and I would like to thank the Barker Civic the department for that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Beatrice?
I'd like to point out that these are not itemized, these are line items. Like I mentioned earlier, these are not itemized, these are line items.
Thank you. Thank you, TJ, for coming tonight and answering the questions, giving us a quick overview of why you need the money.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Having none, any council comments? Any council comments? Motion to approve?
Motion to
Councilman
approve.
Simmons?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman Simmons, and I believe Councilman Dabney was second. Ms. Schleva, on the vote, please.
Mr. Stimley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatrice?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
We have 9 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Schleva.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Councilman Dabney.
Assistant Controller, Marilyn Wall.
Marilyn, if you would please come to the, or Mrs. Wall, if you would please come to the microphone.
Okay, now I'm going back to the $40,000 transfer. What would happen if we got enough votes where that transfer did not happen, but they still had to make these repairs, and they took them out of the other account? State Board of Accounts comes in and says, you know, you're in the negative, you paid out of an account.
Well, we wouldn't.
What would happen?
We wouldn't pay the bill. I mean, we wouldn't pay the bills. I mean, we'd have to hold those over until the next budget when there's.
So the repairs to the trucks wouldn't happen and the car.
Well, we wouldn't be able to pay the. I mean, the repairs already happened.
Okay.
So if there were bills that would cause the item to go over budget, we'd pull it.
Just wanted to know the consequences.
Correct, because otherwise that's why we have budget controls.
Right.
So we'll post this and then we should be good.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Ms. Schleva, our next resolution by title only without objection.
A resolution by title only approving the transfer of funds to the general fund, and this is introduced by Councilman Dabney.
Councilman Dabney.
No comment. I read the committee report at the beginning of the meeting here and said exactly why we're going to be moving the $1 million from the riverboat to the general fund and $600,000 from seeded to the general fund. So no further comments.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this resolution? Council comments? Councilman Paul Przybylski?
I would like to know, because I was at the meeting, 10 days ago, 15 days ago, what budgets are deficient for exactly, because what we're talking about is using the cash, this unspent cash balance from the insurance and setting up, if I'm correct, need to be corrected, I would hope that the finance committee corrects me, the $1 million, is that going to be created in a separate fund, or is it just going to be put in the general fund? Because I thought we were establishing, is that going to go in the rainy day account? Since we do have a rainy day account established by ordinance already, is it going to go in there, or because we're not specifically saying where we're going to put it?
Okay. When I was asked to sponsor this, the money was to go into the general fund to make sure we cover any possible shortfalls. And at that time, the prediction was that we would need the 1.6. We just had an update tonight at the finance committee meeting where it looked like we're going to end up needing about 1.1 or so. So that is why we ended up with 1.6. So it's going to go into the general fund, and that was the projection at the time that we had in regards to cover the general fund. So there was no special, maybe we can, go ahead, I see you. Yep.
Mary Lynn Wall, Assistant Controller. I was not at the meeting. I was out on training. What this is we're moving this into the cash balance of the general fund. So it's not unlike, we're not moving it into the budget. It's just, if in times your revenue projections, or if we, with the circuit breaker, our revenues, you set your budget based on estimated revenues, based on estimated, what we call the circuit breaker, and the revenues basically for the last couple of years weren't enough to cover all the expenses in the budget. Nobody went over their budget, because that's a different scenario for some of these resolutions. This money is going to go into the general fund cash, and so that way, when we run our ledger reports, the cash balance will then be in the positive. It won't have a negative cash balance. That's where this money is going to. It's not going into anybody's budget to spend more money. It's just to put the money into we're moving from one cash balance to another cash balance, which is different.
Councilman Przybylski?
So, Mrs. Wall, so are what we basically saying that that money was over budgeted in the 2019 budget?
Well, we had
nobody asked for, it's budgeted items. So I'm trying to get a handle on this.
Well, once again, I was not at the meeting when we brought in, Carl Sunder to kind of explain with the circuit breaker that amount was understated, meaning we did not receive the property tax. When we received the property tax settlement amount, it was less than what our budget had projected it to be. Therefore, we had revenue shortfalls. So it couldn't really sustain the budget. So that's...
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
And,
there's a mechanism to find out what the tax draw is gonna be. And that's what I'm specifically getting at, is that the tax draw was short and nobody cut the budgets. That's what I'm getting at here. So now we're gonna use riverboat money to shore up. That's all I'm getting at, driving at. And that's a correct statement. It was over budgeted. So, we'd be in bad shape if we didn't have that riverboat money. And that's what the next council is looking at, is shoring up this revenue stream. So, with that being said, I got a problem supporting this because I did not pass this budget. Thank you.
Are there any public comments? Any public comments on this resolution? Any public comments on this resolution? Any public comment? No public comment. Public comment is closed. Council comment? Well, I certainly have a comment on this, and we're taking $1 million out of the riverboat. We're taking $600,000 out of seeded, and by chance we found a grant worth $500,000 floating around somewhere in the budget. We never were told where that came from. So we were told about this situation, financial situation, a week ago when we had a meeting with the city controller, Rich Murphy, and Carl Sender, our financial advisor that the city uses. And the city failed to, or I should say the controller, the administration failed to properly budget for what's called the circuit breaker. So we came up short in that respect, and now the city has to make up the difference. One of my issues is accountability and transparency of this just didn't happen a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The city had to know about it for a while, but the city council found out about it a week ago, and now here we are, as usual, at the 12th hour, passing a $1.6 million resolution, and, let the money fly, and nobody, no big deal. It is a big deal, especially when I sit on the finance committee, and we're supposed to know exactly what's going on with the finances of the city, where the money's at, where the money's not at, but we're not told about it until, oh, by the way, we need $1.6 million to take care of this. Now, I don't know how some people feel about it, but it's a big pill to swallow, and it's a big pill, in my estimation, on responsibility and what people are supposed to do to let their elected officials, if we're working as a team, you always hear the big team concept. Well, in this respect, I don't think the team concept worked, because I think the quarterback was in another field, and he didn't tell the players how all this went. There's no, in my estimation, there's no turning back. We have to do what we have to do to make sure that the budget's taken care of. And as Councilman Przybylski said, next year and moving forward for the next 4 years, it's going to be a different mindset. And we're just not going to be spending money here, spending money there. If we're going to tighten the belts, we're going to tighten the belts a lot. And that's just the way it's going to be, and people are going to have to accept that. With that being said, is there a motion to approve? Councilman Simmons?
Motion to approve.
Support. And Councilman Beatry, I think won that out, so he gets the second. Ms. Sleva, on the vote, please.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Don Przybylski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Nay.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
and Mr. Stimley.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Schleba. And our next resolution, and if you would, Ms. Schleba, read the entire resolution for this one, for the next 3 resolutions. If you'd read them in their entirities, I'd appreciate that.
A resolution in its entirety honoring Councilmember Ron Hamilton for his commitment and service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. Whereas at the conclusion of the calendar year 2019, the tenure of Councilmember Ron Hamilton will come to a close. And whereas this council member has always performed his duties with the utmost dedication to the best interest of the city and the citizens herein, and has conducted himself with professionalism in the process. And whereas this council member has never forgotten that the task of government is to serve the needs of the people and has worked hard to accomplish that task. And whereas we wish to thank this council member for his service and recognize his dedication as a member of the City Council, and he will be missed by all. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Michigan City that the city hereby recognizes, commends, and thanks Councilmember Ron Hamilton for his dedicated service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. This is introduced by Councilman Prespolinski, Councilman Simmons, Councilman Fitzpatrick, Councilwoman Carnes, Councilman Simmons, Councilman Paul Prespolinski, Councilman Dabney, and Councilman Beatry.
And do the sponsors have anything they'd like to say?
I mean,
Okay, yeah. Well, I can't see the lights.
Yeah.
If you want to say something, go ahead.
and I'm probably gonna make the same comment for all 3 here, but thank you for your service. People in the public see us do this. They think it's easy. They think it's part-time when you're taking calls at night and early mornings and things like that. You really do put a lot of time in, and trust me, everybody that gets up here, they really have the best interests of the city. When they come into this, it's pretty simple. Somebody asked me way before I got on the council, and he said, "Why do you want to be on the council?" I said, "Because I can help." And I think all of us have that same attitude as we get involved with this. So I want to thank all 3 of them here. Ron's standing there right now, so thanks, Ron. All right.
Any other council comments?
I don't have anything embarrassing. I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure, and Ron, I'm glad I got to serve with you. You can at least put that in your epitaph, all right? Thank you.
Okay. Any other council comments? Anyone from the public who should speak at this time?
Kathy Stransky, 223 East Barker Ave. Motion to adjourn will never sound the same.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public? Having none? Any other council comments? As being the president of the council, I just want to thank you, Ron, for all your hard work, effort. It's been enjoyable being on the council with you. And like Mrs. Stransky said, motion to adjourn will never be the same. Anyway, thank you very much. You could be missed. At this time, need a motion.
So move.
Motion and second.
Support.
Support by Councilwoman Carnes. Schleba.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Ms. Carnes.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton.
Abstain.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Yes.
Mr. Gene Simmons.
Aye.
Mr. Stimley.
Aye.
And Mr. Beatry.
Aye.
There's 9 in favor and none opposed.
Okay. Schleba. Next resolution by the whole resolution.
A resolution in its entirety honoring Councilmember Tim Beatry for his commitment and service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. Whereas at the conclusion of the calendar year 2019, the tenure of Councilmember Tim Beatry will come to a close. And whereas this council member has always performed his duty with the utmost dedication to the best interest of the city and the citizens herein, and has conducted himself with professionalism in the process. And whereas this council member has never forgotten the task that the task of government is to serve the needs of the people, and has worked hard to accomplish that task. And whereas we wish to thank this council member for his service and recognition, and recognize his dedication as a member of the city council, and he will be missed by all. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Michigan City that the city hereby recognizes, commends, and thanks Council Member Tim Beatry for his dedicated service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. This is introduced by Don Prespolinski, Mr. Stimley, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Ms. Carnes, Mr. Simmons, Mr. Paul Prespolinski, Mr. Dabney, and Mr. Hamilton.
And do the office have anything they'd like to add at this time?
Yeah. This one is a little bit. This one is really heartfelt for me. If you notice, whenever I talk to him, I still call him Mr. Beatry. I've never called him Tim Beatry in my life. He was principal when I was coming through high school, and I've never. And he told me actually to call him Tim. I've never even called him Councilman. I just call him Mr. Beatry. Just like, with all my teachers and things like that. So. I'm still not going to call him Tim Beatry, but I just, this one is different. He was around for me when I was coming up, and this is a pretty special one to me, so thank you.
Any other comments by the sponsors, co-sponsors? Having none, anyone from the public wish to say anything? Anyone from the public wish to make any comment? Anyone from the public wish to make a comment? Any further council comments? Councilman Prespolinski.
Mr. Beatry, even though you weren't my principal, it's been a pleasure of taking exchanges with you. All right? I've looked forward to it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy it too.
We'll meet each other again in public comment.
And I'm going to make a few comments. I just have to say about Tim Beatry, professional from day one. And when I knew I was getting on the city council with Tim Beatry, I knew I was getting on the council with a professional. And respected everything you ever had to say, because I know that your heart is totally in Michigan City. And I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
Welcome. Give Tim a round of applause.
Motion to approve.
Support.
There's been a motion to approve, and a second by Councilwoman Carnes. Ms. Leva.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stimley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
And Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
There are 9 in favor and none opposed.
Now, this is kind of like, let's make a deal. Move back and forth. Okay, Ms. Leva. Our next resolution in its entirety.
A resolution in its entirety honoring Councilmember Sharon Carnes for her commitment and service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. Whereas at the conclusion of the calendar year 2019, the tenure of Councilmember Sharon Carnes will come to a close. And whereas this council member has always performed her duties with the utmost dedication to the best interests of the city and the citizens herein, and has conducted herself with professionalism in the process. And whereas this council member has never forgotten that the task of government is to serve the needs of the people, and has worked hard to accomplish that task. And whereas we wish to thank this council member for her service and recognize her dedication as a member of the city council, and she will be missed by all. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Michigan City that the city hereby recognizes, commends, and thanks Council Member Sharon Carnes for her dedicated service to the City of Michigan City, Indiana. This is introduced by Councilman Don Prespolinski, Councilman Simmons, Councilman Fitzpatrick, Councilman Hamilton, Councilman Simmons, Councilman Paul Prespolinski, Councilman Dabney, and Councilman Beatry.
And the sponsors, co-sponsors, have anything that you'd like to add at this time?
I just wanted to say to all three of them, Mr. Beatry, Ms. Carnes, and Mr. Hamilton, thanks. It's been a pleasure serving on the council with each and every one of you. You went beyond and above your duty with a lot of different things, and I want to thank you for your service to the citizens of Michigan City and to the town. You did an outstanding job, and you will surely be missed.
And yeah, real quick, got a chance to really get to know Councilwoman Carnes here. We actually served together in a neighborhood association, the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group. And so those were times when we were able to talk a little bit more candidly to each other and get involved with the neighborhood. And it was really good to see Sharon, and first of all, explain the Eastport neighborhood. Michigan Boulevard cuts the Eastport neighborhood in half. So part of it's in the 5th Ward, part in the 1st Ward. And so we were both involved with the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group. And, we really had a chance to do some good things over in the Eastport neighborhood. And I'm glad to say she was involved with that. So, and she can hear it in my voice. I'm asking her to stay around to the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group. I'm not looking down there at her, but I'm just putting that out there in the public.
Any other further council comments? Any further council comments?
It is all right if I use your first name, right? Is that okay, Sharon? All right. I appreciate your perspective on a lot of things, and I do appreciate the fact that you enlighten us on things that we overlook, and I think that's good, and I think that we'll miss that, and I hope that you do stay involved with the Eastport Improvement Organization. There's a lot of, hopefully in the near future, we'll be doing a lot of good things going that way from the 2nd Ward into the 5th Ward, if we get the money correctly. Thank you.
Any further council comments? Having none? Anyone from the public like to say anything?
Jeb 3630 Birchwood Trail. And I do want to just recognize Sharon for the great work she's done in her ward and overall in the city administration, helping to create some great Women's Commission on Sustainability, and then all the great work in her ward that she's done, neighborhood cleanups, and of course the community garden, and working with constituents to develop pathways for pedestrians in her ward. So I just want to recognize her for that great work she's done, and I'm sure she'll do more great stuff in the future.
Anyone else wish to say anything? Any further comments? Having none, I would just, we have council comments back. Should I make a motion? One more round. And I would like to present this resolution to you on behalf of the Michigan City Council. Thank you for all your hard work and efforts and insights on all the many subjects which we're on here. So thank you very much. And appreciate everything you've done for this.
Motion to approve. Support.
There's a motion to approve by Councilman Przybylski and seconded by Councilman Fitzpatrick. Now sit down. Ms. Leva, on the vote, please.
Councilman Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilman Hamilton.
Aye.
Councilman Don Przybylski.
Aye.
Councilman Paul Przybylski.
Yes.
Councilman Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman Stimley.
Aye.
Councilman Beatry.
Aye.
Councilman Dabney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carnes.
Aye.
9 in favor and none opposed.
And we are moving on to our first ordinance this evening. Ms. Schleva, if you would please, by title only, and this was tabled, so this automatically comes off the table. It was tabled for December 17th. So this automatically comes off the table. So if you would, Ms. Schleva, by title only, without objection,
An ordinance by title only, an ordinance vacating a portion of a public street in the city of Michigan City located between 12 East Business Center subdivision and Bayview Addition and running north and parallel to US Highway number 12. This is introduced by Councilman Simmons and Councilman Dabney.
And do either of the authors have anything they'd like to add at this time?
Yeah, I do.
Councilman Dabney?
Nothing to make, I'm just some, I don't want to call it technical or, well, anyway, I spoke with Miss Jackson before the meeting, and she just has some concerns. You know, when you get involved with something like this, you have property that you own, you don't know what to expect if you've never been into this. So you don't know what could happen with your property and things like that. So I know Attorney McDonald's here to come up and just explain the process and you know what we got going on and how that can affect a property owner, you know, that owns a property for me. I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I wish I could have called you ahead of time, but
That's okay. Barry McDonald, I'm an attorney here in town at 601 Franklin Street, and I'm here again on behalf of the Bennett and Honer family. Representatives of both those families are here again tonight. And Mr. Dabney is correct. I didn't prepare any formal presentation only because I figured this council was probably sick of hearing me talk, having gone through 2 rounds of it. And certainly Mr. Myers can comment. He is more of an expert than I am. But fundamentally, we are asking that the council vacate its right-of-way that exists and essentially Mr. Meyer rightfully pointed out that it isn't the same as the city giving property or getting rid of surplus property, which they certainly have a right to do, and there's a whole formal mechanism for that. Both the Jackson family as well as my clients already have an underlying ownership interest in the property. You kind of think of it in layers. They kind of have an ownership interest at this level. The city kind of comes in with a right-of-way grant at this level. And so what we're asking the city to do, since that right-of-way grant was granted, I suspect in the case of the Bayview subdivision, probably over 100 years ago, obviously the original developer thought that that would develop. City of Michigan City's had 100 plus years to develop it. Doesn't look like there's any sense of urgency to do so. So we would like the city to kind of essentially lift off that top layer and free up the property. It's a 50-foot right-of-way, and the way street or alley vacations work is the property would go kind of 50-50, 50% to my clients, 50% to the Jackson family. One of the conditions that the city rightfully has placed on this is that both my clients, and if the city approves it, and the Jackson family gets their half, they would have to consent to having the continued placement of the water and sanitation utilities. And right now, there's no easement agreement for that because the city has the right-of-way grant. Once the right-of-way grant is gone, we would have to formalize an easement agreement. And I actually have a draft of easement agreement that I have shared with Mr. Russell on the water department's behalf, Mr. Meyer on the sanitary district behalf. So we've got a format that we all sides have approved of. And so I guess to specifically answer your question, Mr. Dabney, and I've actually had a chance probably 2 months ago at this time to talk to Ms. Jackson about it. I haven't heard from her since, but as I look at it on my client's behalf, I do not see a downside to any property owner being given the right to develop this property. This property, subject to the easement, is now more freed up for her family to develop as well as my clients. I think one concern she had, and it's a fair concern, is there could potentially be what I would argue a slight increase in real estate taxes potentially. In other words, and the way real estate taxes work typically is your frontage, for any of you that have ever challenged your taxes and gone to the assessor's office, frontage is more important than depth. So if we were adding 25 feet of frontage, it could have, I would say, a bigger impact on the tax. However, 25 feet of depth typically is, while it certainly could create an increase,
I would argue, and I would argue the same for my clients, because they would face the same thing, the benefit of ownership of this 25-foot by whatever strip far outweighs the potential minimal tax burden. I would also argue that it's in the city's best interest. Right now, they have a right-of-way that isn't doing any good. Their interest right now is the utilities that are in the ground. That interest will be protected. And what they get in return is the opportunity to have new development by my clients and potentially, I suppose, if the Jackson family does not intend to continue the existing business, that frees up additional property that they could potentially sell for whatever future development may happen. So I would argue this is one of the instances that the council has a win-win. And again, I'm speaking from my client's behalf, but my clients really are identically situated to Ms. Jackson, and I just see far more upside to both the parties affected than I do any negative minor tax ramification. I'm not sure, I hope that answered.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to just make sure you had a chance to hear that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And again, I excuse me, Mr. I would also say to Ms. Jackson, who, if for some reason, whether she or her counsel or anyone at some point in the future, if the council were to look favorably upon this, again, if she doesn't want the property, I suspect my clients would accept a deed from it. In other words, if for whatever reason there's a concern about the tax basis of the easement, she would never, in other words, be, if she deeded the property, in a worse situation than she sits right now. She'd be identically situated as she sits right now.
But by deed, you mean sale?
That's a discussion I guess my clients would have to have. Okay. But I mean, to me, that's a post-council action activity.
Exactly.
But correct.
Okay.
Councilman Przybylski.
I got a question for Mr. Myers. Would it be out of line to ask for a third reading tonight?
No, it's up for third reading. Your second reading was last meeting, you had a public hearing.
Okay, I thought this was only sitting on second. We're hearing it on second, all right.
I think the agenda, Mr. Przybylski, you're right, it does. I'm glad you actually brought that up because it did indicate second reading, and I was a bit nervous.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. McDonald since he's here? Pardon?
I have a question for Mr. McDonald.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this ordinance? Public comment is now closed. Are there any further council comments? Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I remember when we discussed this at the last meeting, Miss Jackson was in the process of selling up her father's estate. And I would like to know the progress on that and how close are you to really being able to understand the impact of what the decision we make would have on you and whoever else your potential other heirs are to the estate. Yes.
I'm Deborah Jackson, 219 Hillcrest Road, Michigan City, Indiana. We are finalizing all the estate as far as my father's passing, excuse me. And we were just concerned with, if the council were to approve this, how would it affect my mother, being that she's widowed now, as far as the taxes? And would she be responsible for like the easement? Would we have to be responsible for the easement or anything like that? That was just our concern. So, did that answer?
Sure. And then I want to have another question. Did you have any plans on selling the business, or
Not right offhand, no.
is that something you were entertained? Because I went on Beacon and I looked at the property, and the way the parcel is set up, the right of way goes right through the middle of it. Your property is on the southwest corner, I believe. So without the potential developers having an idea of what they're planning on doing, I don't know if it'll be a situation where they'll be trying to acquire your property if you intend on selling it, or if it's a situation where they'll, maybe want to wait you out or see if you intend on doing something. That's why the rush to do this right now is really concerning me, because I know you're in the process of dealing with the death of your father. So,
Far as with my mother, she has no plans in selling it right now. But I will relay this information back to her to see exactly what she has planned for the property. Who knows, if the price is right, she may be interested, excuse me, in selling it. But as of tonight, she is not. So that's where we stand.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any further comments from council members? Any further council comments? Councilman Hamilton?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilman
Support.
Hamilton. Is there a second?
Support.
Councilman Beatry, there's a second. Ms. Schleva on the vote.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stimley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Nay.
Ms. Carnes?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Nay.
We have 7 in favor and 2 opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schleva. Our next ordinance on second reading, and this was also tabled at the December 3rd meeting. So that comes off the table this evening. By title only, Ms. Schleva, without objection.
An ordinance by title only approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Riverboat Fund to pay for employee benefits, sick day sellback, longevity, and vacation bonus for various city departments. And this is introduced by Mr. Don Prespolinski and Mr. Beatry.
And do the authors have anything they'd like to add at this time? I know that a letter was sent back from the mayor and from Gail Nyland, the city clerk, that they just, we don't go back and look at interest or payments or anything like that. Just we move forward with the amounts that they are asking for. Any comments, Mr. Beatry?
No, I was going to mention that the reason why this was tabled was because of the concerns that it may impact those two people in a negative way, and
Right.
their letter dispelled that.
Right.
So.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wishes to speak on this ordinance? Having none? Council comments? Councilman Prespolinski?
This is a third reading for this ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay. I just want
Thank
to
you.
clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order. If it's the second read, how can it be second and third reading without us approving to suspend the rules?
You read it last meeting,
As second reading.
and you had a public hearing.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, and then it was tabled,
Right.
Councilman, and then there's just a misprint at the top. It said having second reading, it should spell out third reading this evening.
And that's the same for the last ordinance as well?
Right.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Okay.
So when we have our next meeting, we'll have to reflect that in the minutes, because everything's read into the minutes as second reading.
No, I think it'll be read in as third reading. There was just a misprint on the agenda. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah,
Legal?
so I don't prepare the minutes.
Yeah, right.
But Kim, I don't know which one of you will be doing it, but I'm assuming you'll be putting it in as third reading.
That's what. Okay, Councilman? Councilman
I just
Przevalensky?
wanted to clarify that the question was raised and it was clarified, so the record reflects that it's third reading, so there's no dispute about that. It's just with the previous ordinance also.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Any other council comments?
Motion to approve.
Support. Motion to approve by Councilman Beatry and seconded by Councilman Hamilton. Ms. Schleva, on the vote, please.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Mr. Stimley?
Aye.
Mr. Beatry?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Ms. Carms?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
And Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
We have 9 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Schleva. Under unfinished business, under nominations, the Common Council has one appointment to the Michigan City Commission for Women to replace incumbent Ms. Cassandra K. Hill, whose term expires December 21, 2019. This evening, the Common Council has the vote for 2 appointments to the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission, whose term expires Mr. John Sheets, Mr. Pat Kowalski, at December 31st, 2019. And last meeting, we had nominations. Ms. Kathy Dennis was nominated, Mr. John Sheets was nominated, and Mr. Pat Kowalski was nominated for those 2 positions. So, we will be taking the vote, and that's why I passed out this City Council nomination and appointment process. If you have a copy of it, the clerk's office put it in front of us. So, Mr. Myers, and help me along here. So for the vote, do we vote individually for each,
position.
since we have 3?
Well, you have 2 positions,
Right,
so you have to have 2 votes,
okay,
at least. You may have more, depending on the results of it. If somebody doesn't get a majority on the first
Right.
round,
you gotta have the majority to win the first round, and then the second round would be a runoff
between the
between
top 2.
second and third.
No, between the number 1 and number 2.
Oh, number 1 and number 2, okay, gotcha. Okay. So,
Mr. President,
yes. Oh, Councilwoman Carnes,
I was wondering if we could hear from the nominees since they're all here.
we can do that. Who would like to speak first? Ms. Kathy Dennis, ladies first.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Dennis. I live at 30 Tryon Farm Lane in Michigan City. And I'm here asking you to consider me for the position on the Redevelopment Commission. I have 2 years previous experience there. I want to tell you just a short little thing that I think will make sense, particularly concerning some of your discussions that you've had at tonight's meeting. Several years ago, I was asked by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which is the UPS Foundation, it's one of the 3rd largest foundations in the country, to be the lead technical assistant for a project in Houston, Texas, in the 3rd Ward, which was then the lowest socioeconomic community in the country. The foundation thought they knew, and this was a community development project. It was a 5-year project. It was a multi-million-dollar project. The foundation thought they knew what the people in that community needed and what they wanted. So I started going to Houston. We hired staff. I sent staff out to talk to the people who lived in the Third Ward. And we found out that what the people in the Third Ward wanted was very different from what the foundation, who was headquartered in Baltimore, wanted. So that was one of the major lessons I think that we all learned in that process. The other one was that we really learned that if we had good channels of communication with the mayor of Houston, with the city council of Houston, with the Department of Education, the Department of Health, and various other organizations, that we could leverage our money and do many more things with it than we could have if we had just gone ahead on our own. It reminds me of the Redevelopment Commission, which has lots of funds at its disposal to spend on projects within the TIF districts. In the process of the 2 years I spent there, I was a liaison also to the Branding and Marketing Committee and to the Public Art Commission. And it seems to me that those types of liaisons and reports are so valuable to a group when we report back, that I am wondering if it wouldn't maybe be some way in which the city council could set up some sort of regular reporting process from the redevelopment commission to the city council, to the mayor, so that you had a more detailed understanding of what's going on and what type of projects the redevelopment commission is making. Obviously, there's going to be some changes on the redevelopment commission. I think that my past experience on that commission for 2 years would be an asset to the group now. And so I thank you very much for your consideration. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Councilman Prince Walensky?
Is it Mrs. or Miss?
Either one. This is my husband is here with me.
What years did you serve on the redevelopment commission?
Let's see. It was. You've been on for 1 or 2 years, and that's 1 year. So it was 2 years prior to this year. So I've been off for a year, and I was on 2 years prior to that.
Okay. Did you ask to be renominated or by the mayor or?
I was asked by several people, some of them on the city council, if I would consider being renominated to fill a position on the redevelopment commission.
Okay. Oh, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Were you nominated by the city council before, or were you nominated by the?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I was nominated by the city council before.
Okay. All right. And when it comes to the redevelopment commission, a lot of people have misunderstandings about what that commission does, and I'm particularly concerned about how do you feel on where the redevelopment commission is right now on their bonding practices?
Well, I think that has changed in the last couple of years, in that the redevelopment commission has to come in front of the city council if they want to issue a bond, and I guess the Civic Plaza would be a good example of where they came and asked for an $8.8 million bond to complete the Civic Plaza, and the city council actually they withdrew their request before it came before the council, but had they gone before the council would have had the authority to say yes or no on issuing that bond.
I understand that. Did you with speaking about that plaza, were you in support of that plaza?
Yes, I believe that the plaza, I don't know if the plaza, if the bond issue at $8.8 million, maybe the fact that it was withdrawn and didn't happen will be a good thing. What I would like to see is that the plaza would proceed maybe at a slower pace. But I think that in terms of looking at quality of life in Michigan City, the fact that all of the sponsored events by the redevelopment commission or the city would be free and open to the public, was going to make that a place for everyone who lived in Michigan City. It wasn't being built to be a tourist venue necessarily. It was being built to meet the needs of the people in Michigan City. It's a reason why we had Mr. Hubert Morgan, who came in and spoke with lots of different groups that don't normally participate in government, to ask them what kinds of activities would they like to see in a civic plaza.
Okay, well, with that lead question, with the decommissioning of the NIPSCO facility, have you have any thoughts about that, how it reflects on the redevelopment commission?
It wasn't something that came up at the point I was on redevelopment, and that has happened, I believe, since then. So I wasn't part of any discussions. I think that it's a prime piece of real estate. I believe that it's probably going to take a long time because there's going to be some concerns by the EPA in terms of pollution, ground pollution, and those kinds of things. So it's probably a process that's going to take quite a while to accomplish.
Well, with me asking that question, is this, I asked the same question when we had this, or lead into this question at the Finance Committee when we had this meeting with the Finance Committee on December 2nd, is that when and if that is decommissioned, that how it will affect any bonds that are out and the long-term structure of those bonds, and you know who's going to end up being responsible for those bonds.
I'm not even...
The citizens of Michigan City will be responsible for them bonds. So I guess what I'm getting at here is this. I'm looking for people who are going to be fiscally responsible and look at the long-term viability and getting a handle on all the bonding on what's happened here.
And I agree with you, and I think it's one of the reasons I brought up that perhaps it would be beneficial to the council, to the new mayor, if we had more regular reporting from not only the redevelopment commission, but some of the other commissions that the city is responsible for. And I think a part of that reporting should be certainly fiscal, current fiscal information so that you know what's happening. But I'm not even sure that is the NIPSCO, I guess I'm asking you, is the NIPSCO part in a TIF district?
Yes,
okay.
It's in the North End TIF.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Hello, Pat Kowalski, 502 Pearl Street, Michigan City. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the council for selecting me last year to represent you on the Redevelopment Commission. I hope I did a good job. One thing I am not a yes man, so when I do get onto our private executive meetings, I do ask a lot of questions, and not everybody likes me. But you know what? I got the city in my heart and my best interest, and I think with all the TIP funds that comes through this city, that we should work on ways to give it back to the city and not so much towards outsiders coming in and starting new businesses. I think we should build a little bit more at home and start there. Not giving up on all that, but we need to, think about ourselves first. And there's a lot of money that could work more on the east side of town, south side of town. North End is great, is building up, but being a former businessman, I think about the small guys that are struggling around, and especially in a seasonal town that are having a tough time making it. So I'd like to see more support and more funds goes towards those businesses. Plus, on major projects with the commission, I like to see the city council more involved on major projects. Just like the plaza, we spent millions of dollars buying up properties, tearing them down, excavating, planting grass, and when it comes down to it, the plaza is not there. We ask you guys at the end, when you guys should be on at the beginning, so you don't have to study what we have studied for 4 or 5 months. You should be on the same page we are all the way through major projects. I think a commission of 5 and a majority vote of 3 does not represent Michigan City. I don't want 3 guys or 3 women or whoever they might be saying it's okay for us to spend $12 million. That's not just because you think it's right. I like to hear what other council districts would like to say in the wards on what they say in the wards. This is what we want. You know, that's who we should be listening to. You know, not outside sources. You know, 3 people should not make decisions on that kind of money and spend in this community. It's not right. And I'm on that commission. I don't care for that. One of the changes I like to see made, and with the mayor coming in, the new mayor like Dwayne Perry, and new commissioners, I think we're going to see a shakeup. And I think we'll see a lot more coming back to the community and help us within, and not so much from the outside. And I'd like to thank you for your time today. I'd like to thank you for, electing me last year, and look forward to maybe going on in 2020 and, help Michigan City grow and help the residents of Michigan City grow. That's what we want. Thank you.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So, at our last meeting, we just had a resolution to approve $45,000 for a grant match for a piece of artwork that was brought to you guys first. And I want to know, why didn't you support that?
$45,000 for what?
For a grant match for the park department. They were trying to get a sculpture.
A sculpture? Yes, I can tell you why I didn't support that. At the same time, we were also having the school system wanting more money for the school system, and we didn't have it in our budget for that. And I thought if we had an extra $45,000, I'd rather see it go to the school system. I'd rather see it go to a few other things that could help the city besides a statue at this time. Nothing against the statue. I think it's a great idea. But, right now, we're on that kind of budget, and the school system needs money. I'd rather see it in our children.
Thank you. I appreciate that vote also.
You're welcome.
Or that no vote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Kowalski?
Yeah, can you describe any committees that you served on the redevelopment commission over the last year?
No, redevelopment commission was my first one.
No, committees in the redevelopment commission.
Committees inside the
Yeah.
No, the only thing I've worked on with the redevelopment commission, which we're still working on, is the reassessment of the FOP, which is in town. But besides that, no, I wasn't on any other committees. I'm new to the game, but I also work for a company for the last 3.5 years. I'm a project coordinator and purchasing agent. We build $15 to $20 million a year in new construction. I'm the project coordinator, and I handle all of that. So I'm knowledgeable when it comes to purchasing. So, I'll question things that are being bought.
You did mention that you had ideas for different projects in the neighborhoods. Which neighborhoods and what sort of projects were you looking at?
Not so much different projects. I look for small businesses, maybe on the west side or the east side or south end of town, that might be struggling, that might need help, and TIP funds might be able to help them. And I think we should be able to look at them and have them have a voice in the community. A lot of the projects we brought in this year, I noticed they were out-of-towners, and we helped them, and we gave them funds to start new businesses. That's great, but you know what? We started a new business for somebody coming in from out of town. We got one of our own dying in town. That's not supposed to work that way. My opinion. Doesn't mean it's right.
Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. Another question? Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Good evening, John Sheets, 2503 Ohio Street here in Michigan City. Born and raised here, graduated from Elston, graduated from Indiana State in 1988. Owned a business for 16 years, going on 17 years now on the corner of Barker and Wabash. For years, in the last 10 years, people have asked me to get involved in stuff, so I do. I'm a Past president of the Michigan City Exchange Club. The last year and a half, we've raised $60,000 for various organizations in town, Boys and Girls Clubs, Dunebrook, Salvation Army. There's a list goes on and on if any of you are familiar with the Michigan City Exchange Club. The last year I was on the redevelopment commission, learned a lot of stuff. Couldn't tell you what TIP district meant when I first got on there. I mean, I had some ideas, but I mean, now I know a little bit about it. Some things I would like to see is, we got one coming up here, everybody talks about the Memorial Hospital property. And this is supposed to be one that we put a very minimal amount of money in, and a lot of it's supposed to be self-funded by the group, the MCD group that's supposed to be coming up. We'll see how that's going to happen coming up here in January. Some of the things I'd like to see in the future with the redevelopment commissions, maybe some more things like that, where it's minimal cost for us and the developers footing more of the building we do. You know what I mean by that? You know, it's like all the tipped out, what's the word I'm looking for? The TIP districts, all the bond money coming up, going to them or these guys or this guy. Maybe some of it a little bit less coming back from our side and coming from the developer side, whoever the developer may be. That's pretty much it as far as my spiel. Any questions for me?
Mr. Sheets, I know that you've been active in the community for many years, and how do you feel about how the votes have been on the redevelopment commission?
Well, a lot of these projects on there, most of them are already half decided on. There's very few new projects that we were ever really involved in, other than the Memorial Hospital property and smaller projects. As far as like you asking about the $45,000 for the statue, I didn't feel it was relevant at the time. We just told the technology department that, you know, we weren't going to have the $1 million up front for them. That was a very topic right before they came up for that. I didn't feel it was appropriate. Our school system is way more important than that. Everybody talks about infrastructure. Our school system is the infrastructure of this town. Infrastructure is another, you can use it whatever term you want to, that's the way I look at it. And if we don't get these kids going in the right direction, if you looked at the technology department in the last 5 years, the first 5 years they did it, now we all have the e-learning and everybody, they have that now. We were one of the last school systems to get that. I'm so happy that we have that now. It's only going to get better the more money we're able to put in that. And maybe our kids will have a better outlook in this community, because it scares me sometimes. I have a business here, I want it to thrive. And that's where I think we need to start with it.
So what you're telling me is that you're not a yes man.
No, I'm not a yes man.
Okay, thank you.
You know, there's a lot of things that we voted yes on early on in the year, but those things were already decided for the most part. It's just a matter of, just like you guys are moving one fund from this line item to that line item. That's basically what we've been doing most of the time. Now we get a chance to do some new projects coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. So hopefully I'll get a chance to do that.
Okay, thank you.
As far as nets go, if that ever happens in my lifetime, I hope we find a developer to take care of themselves. As far as everything else, you know, as far as the plaza, I can answer that question for you. I've been listening to what you asked the other people. If I felt, and I said this at our executive meeting, if we'd have been a little bit more transparent with the community, they might have been a little bit more apt to looked at it more. But we were supposed to keep it quiet, so we kept it quiet. Then it came out on a Saturday, if you guys remember, it's a Saturday morning paper, $8.8 million for the first, and I'm getting phone calls at my business. What do you mean $8.8 million? That's because nobody knew anything about exactly what it was going to cost, just what it was going to be. I felt if we were a little bit more transparent, might have been a little bit easier to swallow.
And that's not even counting the interest.
Well, I'm just...
I know, I'm just saying. It was 8.8 without the interest added. If we had the interest, it was 15 million.
I was a part of that commission, but I just felt if we'd have been a little bit more transparent and let everybody know what's coming, might have been a little bit better pill to swallow on that one. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Sheets.
No,
Mr. Hamilton?
No, I don't have a question. No, you're fine. I wanted to wait until after you sat down because no matter what the vote is, no matter what goes on, The question that wasn't asked that I thought about is the double track. I'm sure some of these council members really haven't been brought up to speed or worked on it or thought about it, but you got double track coming in quickly. It's funded, it's moving forward. Now, I don't always agree with the plan. I voted nay on everything, but I was fortunate enough the mayor appointed me on the committee. I helped on the contract, helped on all that. The redevelopment commission has to make that project work because they're the ones that are funding it. So I would hope that whoever goes on the redevelopment commission in these next year, 2 years, remember that that project has to work. Otherwise, you're going to hurt our city, and it's going to be bad. So just keep that in the back of your thoughts, even the council and the council members on here. Remember, you have double track. That's a lot of money and a lot of things you have to do. So, thank you.
Yeah, and on that same note, whoever gets elected to the redevelopment commission, you can take back that, I think, another item that needs to be looked at, and that's the Bloxham property or the Bloxham contract that was developed at one time, and now it just sits. And instead of, I don't know, renegotiating with Bloxham or sitting down and talking to Bloxham over a cup of coffee and a donut, it's like we just turned our backs on them for whatever reason. Council was never made privy to that. And what we've done is we built a swaling hill and put arborvitae on it so we could hide Bloxham. To me, we're always talking about the diamond in the rough. And the diamond in the rough, to me, is one of the developments, is to develop that Trail Creek area, Riverwalk type development down there. That's what the thought process was. And whoever gets nominated to the redevelopment commission, take that back with you and work in that direction. Mr. Sheets? And if any of the other folks want to comment on,
I can't dwell on that, because at this time, but, part of the problem is also on Bloxham's behalf. They just kind of let that thing go. And now it's come back to surface here a little bit. I can't comment a whole lot about it. But coming up here soon, we're going to have to be doing it, because I don't know if you guys noticed that they've actually taken partner with Fiber Bond out there. So there's a lot of things coming up with that. What's going to happen on that property? Well, I can't tell you everything because I'm not sure myself, but there's a lot of things coming up, and there's about $5 million involved in that on our behalf, I do believe. That's an old contract way back then that was agreed upon, so that's not a big secret. So that's where we're at with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sheets. Okay, any more comments from the council? No more comments? No more council comments or questions? And Ms. Schleba will be voting for 2. Okay. Okay, Ms. Schleba?
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
John Sheets.
Mr. Simmons.
Kathy Dennis.
Mr. Stimley.
John Sheets.
Mr. Beatry.
Kathy Dennis.
Ms. Carnes.
Kathy Dennis.
Mr. Dabney.
Kathy Dennis.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Kowalski.
Mr. Hamilton.
Sheets.
And Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Kowalski.
We have 3 for Mr. Sheets, 2 for Mr. Pat Kowalski, and 4 for Ms. Dennis.
Do it over, except you only have the option of Mr. Dennis or
Ms. Dennis.
Or Mr. Sheets. For this position.
Okay. Ms. Schleba?
This is confusing, sorry. Mr. Simmons.
Kathy Dennis.
Yeah.
Mr. Stimley.
John Sheets.
Mr. Beatry.
Dennis.
Ms. Carnes.
Kathy Dennis.
Mr. Dabney.
Dennis.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Sheets.
Mr. Hamilton,
Sheets.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Sheets.
and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
John Sheets.
We have 4 for Ms. Dennis and 5 for Mr. Sheets.
So they're on.
So John Sheets.
Okay.
One more?
Yes, John Sheets is just on.
Yeah, John Sheets is on.
Dennis or,
Ms. Sleva?
Okay, Mr. Stimley,
Pat Kowalski.
Mr. Beatry,
Dennis.
Ms. Carnes,
Dennis,
Mr. Dabney,
Dennis?
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Kowalski.
Mr. Hamilton,
Kowalski.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Kowalski.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Kowalski.
Mr. Simmons.
Dennis.
We have 4 for Ms. Dennis and 5 for Mr. Kowalski.
Congratulations. You gentlemen are back on the redevelopment commission. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dennis, for applying and running for the position. Good luck.
thank you, I'll be super proud.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Where's my agenda? There it is. I got it. Under new business, approval of final acceptance certificates. Number 1 for the senior center lighting and HVAC work. Fire station number 4, solar work. Kroger Memorial Hall lighting and HVAC work. Michigan City Police Headquarters, HVAC work. Michigan City Zoo lighting and speaker work. Park maintenance, HVAC work. And Patriot Park, solar work. So I'm assuming we have to vote on this evening, and we can, all those in favor of approving these final acceptance certificates, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? All right, those are approved. Comments from the public. Public comment.
Angie Nelson Deitch, 126 Lady Lane, Michigan City. I don't know if the attorney can do this, Mr. President, but that second reading was correct. It was tabled on second reading and brought back on second reading is what I thought it was supposed to happen, because it was tabled on the second reading. So I'm confused on what clarification, whether it's Robert's rules or whatever it is, that ordinance that was tabled at the second reading still required. Were we done with it and it was tabled? Or is that what happened? I'm just trying to get some clarification on why it came back on third reading for both of them. Because I don't think the clerk's office, I think they thought it was second reading too.
Well, I'll respond. Yeah, go ahead.
If you want to, well, in this case, the public hearing had already taken place, and so everything on the second reading had been accomplished short of and you don't vote, this council doesn't vote to pass it from one reading to the next. So that's why. If there was a tabling, for instance, at the time it was read, then yes, then it would still be second reading, but everything was accomplished.
Any other public comment?
I'm Tommy Klovic, 1316 Ohio Street, and I'm sure we've all heard the news by now that come January 1st, we're going to be losing our airport shuttle service from O'Hare and Midway airports. This couldn't come at a worse time. They're only giving us 3 weeks notice. This is a time where we're going to have our college students returning to college, and you know, a lot of my friends are elderly and disabled, and they depend on this service to, you know, travel to and from the airport. You know, they might have to go to a funeral right away or whatever. And I guess in 60 days, a new company is going to take over the service, but maybe perhaps the mayor or the outgoing councilman can make one of their last acts to maybe request Coach USA to continue the service until the new company takes over, so we don't have a lapse in service for the, you know, for the bus. And it's just my public comment, and I wish you all happy holidays and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate that. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jackie Euler. I live at 501 Tremont Street. I've been before you before in regards to the animal cold weather ordinance that we got passed. There's been a couple instances recently where there's been an issue with a dog being left out in the cold. Animal control, Julie Holbrook has since taken the dog. There was a big to-do on Facebook. Chief Campbell had commented about Julie taking the dog and the good job she did, which Julie is fantastic, and so is Natalie. I cannot say enough about those two women. They work hard, they care about the animals. It's so nice to see that there is an AC officer that cares. Things have been done properly since those two have come on, so I want to thank them. But in the statement that Chief Campbell had posted on Facebook, had said that whenever there was a problem with a dog that they should call the police department. The problem with that is that people are calling me and telling me, hey, there's a dog out in the cold, there's a dog doing this, there's whatever, there's dogs barking. And I've called the police department, and the police department says you got to talk to AC in the morning. So my issue there is if Chief Campbell wants the community to be proactive, if there's a dog running at large or a vicious dog or dogs being left out in the cold, he needs to make sure that his officers that are answering that phone at the desk are saying, if we've got an officer, we will send someone out, and then do so, because these dogs are being left out in the cold still, even though that there is an ordinance. And the next day when, Julie and Natalie go in, I don't know if they're actually getting told about these calls. It's my understanding they're not, because I've got people calling me routinely saying, I called and I left a message with the desk. Desk said that they were going to turn it over to AC, and then the dog is still out in the cold. I don't think it's a problem with AC. I think it's a communication problem that needs to be fixed. The next issue is, it was brought to my attention that on the 6th of December, there were over 40 cats and some rabbits, a turtle, and possibly a rat that was confiscated at Red Roof Inn.
Where's that at?
At Red Roof Inn here in Michigan City. I was told that they were seized on the 6th of December from a U-Haul truck. Animals were being stored in a U-Haul truck. Several people contacted me concerning this. They told me that since then, these animals have been returned to the owner. My questions are these. A couple years back, we had a large animal hoarding issue with dogs. It splashed all over the newspaper. The group that I work with, Guardians of the Green Mile, we took some of those dogs and fostered and adopted them out. It was all over the newspaper. Why is there no mention of this anywhere? And it's my understanding that this woman or couple or whatever they are, or whoever she is, he is, have gotten their dogs, their cats back. How come they got their cats back if they had them living in a U-Haul trailer while they were staying at Red Roof Inn? Where shouldn't there be neglect charges on them? Let's see. Are they going to be charged, and why were the animals returned is what people are asking me to find out. So if
Okay.
you could get some of those answers, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on any subject here this evening?
Alina Yersaida, 125 East Harrison Street. I just had a comment. I heard some comments from Mr. John Sheets in regards to keeping things secret from the public and the council, and that kind of bothered me. In the hopes of a future transparency with departments, I often talk to someone from this department who doesn't know what's going on in this department because no one's talked about it. So I'd like to see in the future that if I go to a redevelopment committee and I happen to mention something at the council meeting, that at least they've touched base to know the basics. Not, I shouldn't hear as a citizen go, well, I was told to keep it secret, so that kind of bothers me. Makes me feel uneasy. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Dwayne Perry, 2206 Maple Street. I'd like to thank the council on the selection of Mr. Sheets and Mr. Kowalski to continue on the redevelopment commission. I have watched those gentlemen for the past year. I am pleased with their performance. I agree with many of the comments they've made. Whoops. And I wanted to, and I'd like to tell the council and tell the public that I am restructuring the redevelopment commission to make it more sensitive to the needs of the people of Michigan City and the city. I believe that Mr. Sheets and Mr. Kowalski will function well with the other new members of the redevelopment commission. And above and beyond that, I pledge to the people of Michigan City that the incoming administration will be one of transparency. Every department, every board, every commission. That's my commitment to the people of Michigan City. Thank you. I'm sorry for breaking the mic.
Did we get new ones?
It's been like that for 8 years, I'm aware of, so. We'll allocate a few dollars, we'll get it fixed.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Council comment? Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Just real quick, I just wanted to say, it's been a pleasure serving with the outgoing council people, Councilwoman Carnes, Councilman Beatrice, and Councilman Hamilton. And I look forward to working with the new administration coming in as well as the new council coming in. I believe we have some great minds coming together, and I think we'll be able to get a lot done in the next few years to improve the lives of the people of Michigan City. And I like what Mayor-elect Perry said about transparency. I know I was talking to one of the other incoming council people, and the term radical transparency came up numerous times. Councilwoman-elect Nelson Deitch came up with that. I don't know where she got it, but I'm using it right now. But radical transparency, I think, is something that is, definitely needed, and I'm definitely looking forward to being a part of that and giving that back to the people of Michigan City. Happy New Year and happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Councilman Simmons?
Yes, I would like to also thank Councilman Beatrice, Carnes, and Hamilton for their service, and I have enjoyed working with you my past 2 years. And I think I was a resource officer in the high school when Mr. Beatrice was principal. So here we are again. But it has been a real pleasure in working with the three of you. I've enjoyed it and learned a lot from you. I sit back and listen, and I'm an active listener, so that's what I do for a living. And on the other note, I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays.
Any other council comments? Councilman Beatry.
This came to me too late, but I'm thinking back to some action we took earlier on the police department, the transfer of the monies, and the question was contractual services. As it came to my mind later that there was a contractual obligation that the police department had, I think, to vendors, because we bought new tasers and we had new body cams. And it sticks in my mind that we had a commitment to vendors for training for that. So that might have been part of that 40,000 that you couldn't come up with, and I forgot about until now.
Councilman Przybylski.
At the last council meeting, I should have done this and I didn't. We had a day that just passed that we should never forget about. And that date is December 7th. And one of the reasons why we're here is because of people that served and gave the ultimate sacrifice. So as we go forward into the new year, think about a veteran that you might know that needs help and give them a hand. But also, with that, I want to wish everybody a very joyous holiday season, and I hope that everybody has a good, safe holiday with their family members. And also, on this note, all the council members got that letter from the Department of the Waterworks. So as we go forward, I hope the next administration that we can get some meetings set up to talk about the double track system, because we have a letter from the Department of the Waterworks that this is already going to have problems on Pine Street, and I also heard that they wanted to shut down 17 streets, not 13. So I mean, I think we got our work cut out for us for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, just real quickly, just a few things that I'd like to mention, because there's one group in Michigan City, and it's our Michigan City Police Department, and Assistant Chief Ashley was there that day. That's at Walmart when we did the Shop with the Cop, and I promised Sergeant Ugelski that I would bring that up at the council meeting. And what this took place on December the 9th at Walmart, and it's a program, and I'm going to read the letter here, and I'll read it fast. The Shop with Our Cops began in 2013 as a small program involving the less fortunate children of Michigan City. In 2014, the program included this group, yet I came up with adding a group of special needs individuals. With just an overwhelming response, we then moved on to increasing our attendees in 2015 to as many special needs individuals as we could support. With donations from numerous businesses, we were then able to include all of Father Blaney's Share Foundation Sharing Meadows residents. We then included, at that time, all of the residents of Parents and Friends and the entire group from Social and Learning Institute, plus the Barker Enrichment Center. Not leaving any stone unturned, we invited all of the special needs children of the Michigan City High School. From this point, we have continued this effort every year, increasing our participants with the merging of Parents and Friends and Michiana Industries to one group now called Paladin. We continue to grow and support donations towards the special Shop with Our Cops program. Each year, participants receive a shopping t-shirt and an amount to go shopping into Walmart, who is a huge sponsor, giving us the entire garden center to transform into a unique reception area. We have the help of Cablin's Hardware, donating the chairs and tables, and our friends at NIPSCO, who not only donate to the cause, but send numerous volunteers who serve food donated by Walmart and Domino's Pizza. Through the year, I run into our participants all the time who wear their t-shirts proudly and can't wait until the next shopping trip. They began making their lists right after Thanksgiving, and it's amazing to see them want small items, toys, and believe it or not, clothing or socks, but also want to pick out gifts for their parents. This year was extra special in the fact that our officers specifically donated money towards this program besides volunteering their time. We also were pleased with the addition of our chaplain division, the Fraternal Order of Police, and both the Long Beach and Trail Creek Police Departments. We especially like to thank our MC, Rick Federici, from WIMS, who volunteers his time every year. Our shoppers always love the Michiana Clowns, who also participate and make animal balloons for everyone. A special visit each year by Santa and Mrs. Claus is always a big hit. And in closing, each year we gather all the previous Citizens Police Academy graduates to return to help shop with our uniformed police officers as this group gets larger each year. Everyone enjoys this heartwarming event that is true meaning of Christmas. And this honestly is a heartwarming event that's true to the meaning of Christmas, because we're given to the special needs individuals and they truly, truly enjoy what takes place. And in closing on this particular subject, if we think that we have issues when we wake up in the morning, we should all get on our knees and thank God for what we have compared to what some folks have to go through. And I want to thank the Michigan City Police Department from the bottom of my heart for supporting this program. Thank you very much. All right, now moving down the list real quickly. Everyone has just read the article in the News Dispatch about the NIPSCO increase that was just approved downstate. It's not going to be a 12% increase. It's only going to be a 6% increase, which still I know people don't agree with. However, I just want to remind everybody that Michigan City, and I'm hoping that Michigan City's involvement in this, by putting a resolution together and sending that with the full support of the City Council, and we put a resolution together that after we did it, that Hammond did it, Gary did it, Hobart did it, and I believe it was Highland. They followed suit after us. So I'm hoping that, and the LaPorte County Board of Commissioners also put a resolution together. So I'm believing that we helped our city, we helped our residents, and we helped paying the bills for the city, because we have to pay the NIPSCO bills. So I don't know how much that's going to increase our billing now, but we'll have to take a look at that. But, however, I just want to thank the city council members that are here that voted on that, and hopefully we made a difference in, Northwest Indiana. I'm thinking we did. Let's see. And Shop with the Cop, Washington Park, if you haven't yet, please take a ride down there and see the Festival of Lights. I want to thank Chris Kaufman and his group down at the Park Department for doing that, and Officer Todd Plisky for the response in rescuing of the woman at the end of the pier that took place on December the 7th, I believe. And one thing I want to mention, that they saw it at the 911 station on the cameras, and I believe that the city council voted defunding to put those cameras on the pier. So with the amount of money that we spent, we saved a life. And that was the purpose of doing that and keeping that pier safe. So I want to thank the council members for doing that. And in closing, I want to wish everyone in Michigan City Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll be back in 2020. And I want to congratulate all my colleagues that are leaving the council now. Thank you for all your hard work. efforts, headaches, phone calls, and everything else that goes along with the job. But we do it because we love the city and we want to see the city get better. With that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
I have a statement.
Oh,
I'll withdraw my motion.
I want to thank the public and the council members and my loved ones for putting up with me the last 8 years. You know, I know we've all had our discussions, and you know, I look back on these 8 years, and not only did they fly, but some of the people I came on this council with that I thought I would never get along with, we go to dinner now. You know, it's amazing what time does, and when you realize the person really does have the city in their heart. So I really want to thank council, and like I said, my loved ones. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and one last motion to adjourn.
all right. Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Councilman Dabney, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.